Hello, I'm Lauren with IndoorGardening.com, and today we're going to be talking about germinating seeds. So now that you know that you want to grow some seeds, where can you possibly get these seeds? There are several different locations that you can get these seeds at. You can get them online via reputable sellers on Etsy or Amazon. Always vet your sellers. People will sell fake seeds all the time. There are lots of scams out there. Make sure you always vet your seller if you're buying them online. The next place that you can go to get them would be some type of a grocery store. You could also go to like a hardware store. There's lots of gardening centers. Nurseries will have seeds for you. There's even some Facebook groups out there, some plant community groups out there where people intertrade seeds depending. Again, that place can have lots of scams, so make sure you vet the seller. The last place that you can get seeds from is straight from the fruits and vegetables that you're eating. For example, if you go to the grocery store and you buy an apple, you can slice open the apple, pick the seeds out of it, and you can just grow that apple, and there's going to be a little apple tree that's going to sprout from it. It may not necessarily fruit the same way that that apple did because of genetics and whatnot from the grocery store. That's a whole other separate topic, but there are seeds available for you there. Tomato plants are another one. You can do zucchini or cucumber. Bell peppers is another one. As long as it is a fresh fruit or vegetable, you can slice it up, and there is a smaller percentage than if you purchase just the seeds already processed, but it's still going to be able to produce for you. Pick what you want to grow and research it. Most plants will produce some type of seed, but it depends on the variety and the species on how it's going to grow and what it needs in order to get those seeds to germinate. So you definitely want to research the specific seeds that you have purchased to determine that. Step 2 is going to be preparing your seeds. Lots of seeds need to be prepared in different ways. Some seeds don't need any preparation at all. You can just toss them in the ground, throw some dirt over them, and keep on trucking, and it won't matter. But there are a lot of other seeds that need more than that. There are some seeds out there that they need some type of stratification, which is cold dormancy period, in order to activate and be able to germinate properly. Another method of seed preparation is called scarification. It's where you grab a little seed and you actually damage the sides of it, or you will slice into it somehow depending on the type of seed and exactly where it needs to be damaged. And this is going to get rid of the protective layer that's on the seed and enable the seed inside to germinate and emerge. Lotus seeds are a prime example of this. They have been put into storage by ancient Egyptians for thousands and thousands of years, and then we dig them up, and then through scarification we have been able to damage them and grow the same type of lotuses that were grown in ancient Egyptian times. There are lots of other plants out there that need this. This is just a prime example. The last pre-germination method that can be done is called pre-soaking your seeds. A lot of seeds like some corn, some type of beans. These seeds are going to have to be soaked usually for 24 to 72 hours depending on the plant, and it's going to soften the husk on the outside of the seeds. So that way, again, it can bust out and germinate and the seed can sprout properly. Otherwise, it would be trapped inside. This will actually mimic something that happens in nature already. Seeds will be dropped into the ground. They will have a wet, rainy period. They will get covered in mud. They will then soak themselves, and then they will sprout. So when we're growing seeds at home, in our own home, or in our own yards, we need to mimic those same natural occurrences. Where are your seeds going to live? They can go outdoors in a garden bed. They can go outdoors in just the soil. They can be inside in a seed starter tray, and then you can remove them and put them wherever they need to go. They can go in a bigger container pot or a smaller container pot. You are going to have to research what the needs of your plants are. This goes back to step 1. What is your plant going to need in order to grow effectively? For example, if you're planning on growing carrots, you can't grab a little teeny tiny pot and put the carrots in it and expect to have a full harvest crop. If you're planning on growing carrot microgreens, then you want a long, thin, shallow pan. You're going to plant your seeds in it, and then they'll sprout up, and you can chop those sprouts right off. They're not going to need a very big, thick pot like a full-grown carrot would. Tomatoes are another one. They like to be in a very, very deep pot. You don't want to plant them in something too shallow. So if you have a little teeny tiny plant, a little teeny tiny tomato seed, you can plant it in the starter pots and then transfer it. But when you transfer it, don't stick it in like a little 3 or 4 inch pot. You want to stick them in something much bigger because they are going to get some really deep roots. And the more deep roots that they have, the more fruit that they're going to produce. So it definitely depends on what type of plant you're growing in order to determine where they're going to be planted and what they're going to need when they're planted there. So you've got a lot of choices and a lot of options, but researching in step number 1 is what's really going to help you out here. Step number 4 is, what are you going to grow them in? What is your mix that you're going to grow them in? Like I said before, you can grow them in a whole bunch of different locations. You can grow them in the garden bed or the pots, but what is the media that you're planning on putting in there? For seed starting in particular, they always recommend that you use some type of seed starting potting based mix and have it sterilized. So this gets rid of the mold, the fungus, the bacteria, if there is any type of pests or pest eggs living in that soil that's going to feed on your little teeny tiny baby plant as it's sprouting, that is all killed and it's all taken out of there. That is why we highly recommend that you use sterilized potting soil. If you're not going to use some type of sterilized potting soil, you can use some type of sphagnum moss. This has been done for houseplants. I have never seen or heard of it done for fruits and vegetables, but I have done it myself for anthurium seedlings, where you take the seeds, you just put in a little bit of moistened sphagnum. Sphagnum moss is naturally sterilized, or you can sterilize it yourself by boiling it if you're really concerned. So, but it is a moisture retentive media and it does function for the seed starting purposes. It might get a little bit expensive and not be something in the long term for fruits and vegetables though. So again, it depends on what type of seeds you are trying to grow. When you go to physically plant your plant up, you need to know how deep the seeds need to be planted. For example, the anthurium seeds I was telling you about, I just placed them on the top of the sphagnum moss because they like a lot of light to germinate. If I was going to be growing carrots, then I would plant them really deep underground. They like that darkness in order to germinate properly. You don't want to plant your seeds too deep though if you're planting them in soil mixture, because if it's too deep, then the little sprouts won't have enough energy to be able to grow up out of that, because they only have so much energy stored in their little seed pods until they can get up and out and get that energy from the light. So if you plant them too deep, they will die. If you don't plant them deep enough, it will be too light and too bright and they will die, or they could be picked off by birds if you have them outside. Step number 6 is to cover your seeds. You can cover them with soil, you can cover them with a humidity dome. If they are outside, you can cover them with some type of hay or a layer of protection. There's straw, hay. People will use grass clippings. So it really depends on where your seeds are growing and how they're growing, what type of coverage they are going to need. But regardless, seeds are always going to need some type of coverage. You've just got to basically make sure that you protect your seeds. Even though they're nestled in the soil or whatever media you chose to plant them in, they are going to need some sort of extra protection and some type of coverage. Make sure you check out indoorgardening.com while you wait for our next video. There's lots of information there for you. We're always happy to help. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!